Thank you so much for attending this session, and thank you for joining us at Rewired Summit. My name is Dana Amer. I am a programs manager at Dubai Cares, and I'm so proud today to be moderating this session with our dear colleagues from the UNRWA. So first of all, I would like to start by introducing my speakers. I will start with Mr. Moritz Player. He's the Acting Director of Education at the UNRWA. And then I have Mrs. Reem Jebat. She's the head of TVET training and technical unit at the UNRWA. Also, I have Lynn Shaker. She's an UNRWA student who flew all the way from Syria to join us today at this session. We also have, of course, Dr. Iyad Zakkout, the head of the psychosocial support unit at the education department in Gaza. Also, he came all the way from Gaza to join us today. So thank you so much for coming. We're so delighted to have you in Dubai. And in fact, Dubai Cares was always very proud about our strategic partnership with the UNRWA. We had been able to partner with them in different programs, especially when it comes to providing quality education to the Palestine refugees in Gaza. So I would like to start by you, Moritz, and first of all, I want to just to understand from you, and of course everyone else is really interested to know more about what is really the mandate of the UNRWA. What is UNRWA doing? UNRWA is a very unique organization who has very clear and I would say limited mandate. So we're very much excited to know better. And how do you deliver quality education to Palestine refugees?
Thank you for that question. It's good that I've prepared a presentation about that exact subject, which I would like to take you through now. I will stand up if you don't mind, because it makes it easier for me to speak. But let me start with saying a few words of thanks to Dubai Cares. We really appreciate their invitation to this event, especially because Dubai Cares made it possible for 4 of our students to travel from our fields of operation here to Dubai. And I would like to remind you that for them, this is the first opportunity in their whole life to travel abroad. I would like to ask Abderrahman to stand up for a moment. He joins us from Jordan. Abderrahman, before coming here, had never seen an airplane in his life, and how he's sat in one. We've got Nada from Lebanon, who's joined us here. And then we have Mohammed from the West Bank, from Jerusalem. And we're being joined by Lynn from Syria on stage. Now, feel free to speak with each one of them after this session, because this is what they're here for. Unfortunately, we were going to be joined by a 5th person from Gaza, but for reasons that I think you can imagine, she was not allowed to leave the Gaza Strip just yet. But yesterday we have got the news that she could join us through Egypt. So let us talk about UNRWA for a second, because not all of you are familiar with this agency, even though we are one of the United Nations oldest agencies. We are the United Nations agency that supports the relief and human development of Palestine refugees throughout the Middle East. And we do so through education, through health services, and through relief and social services. As of this year, more than 5.6 million Palestinians are registered with UNRWA's refugees, and only in the education program, imagine that we've got more than 500,000 students going to schools. In addition to that, 8,000 students going to TVET institutions and 2,000 to teacher training institute. Reem here is in charge of our TVET program. We operate in 5 fields: Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, the West Bank, and Gaza. So we are, and this is important, we are the United Nations agency who are in charge of SDG 4 for those Palestine refugee children. That's us. That's what we should do. And we do so, of course, on behalf of the international community. So we're also asking the international community to help us help the Palestine refugees. Because when we talk about quality education for all, let us remember that all means all. All does not mean everybody except for the Palestine refugees. But what do we talk about when we talk about quality of education? For us, essentially, quality education means 4 things. The first is relevance. In this dimension or this criterion, we ask ourselves the question, does the education respond to the development needs of the society? I'm from the Netherlands. I went to a school that's called a gymnasium. I got Latin education, ancient Greek education. Very interesting. I love those subjects. But is it what the Palestine refugee community needs nowadays to advance? The answer is probably no. What we do think is very important is that they have got knowledge in ICT, that in a region strive with conflict, they are trained in human rights, conflict resolution, and tolerance education, and media and information literacy. And therefore, we undertake actions in each of these fields. But relevance is not enough. We want our education to instill learning. In this dimension, we call effectiveness. So under effectiveness, we ask the question, does the education achieve its direct objective? And you are educationists, so you know what the direct objective of education is. It is learning, right? So we want to know whether they are learning, and we want to do things to ensure they're learning. So to achieve that, we undertake actions in teacher training. We've got our newly appointed teacher module, the NAT, SBDT, school-based teacher development, etc. Because for us, the teacher is the main tool to support students in learning. Still, however, this is not enough for us. We want our education to be efficient. We receive money from the international community. We want to use these resources widely. So we want to avoid corruption. We want to avoid wastage. We want to ensure the optimum value for the investment that we receive from the donors. What are we doing to achieve that? We are improving our education management information system to make sure who is learning where and at what time. And in addition to that, we're upgrading our class formation process, which is our educational planning process. Finally, imagine that the child is learning, but there might be some kind of corporal punishment involved. The child might do their homework until 2 o'clock in the night, 3 o'clock in the night. You know, there is no well-being. For us, that is still no quality of education. For us, well-being and inclusion is an intrinsic part of quality of education. Without well-being, without inclusion, we are not talking about quality. So here, the question we ask is not, does the education respond to the needs of the society? The question we ask is, does the education also respond to the needs of all students? Women, girls, boys, in Gaza, etc. And here we have our psychosocial support program and another initiative about addressing violence against children in schools. And I'm happy that Dr. Iyad will say more about PSS later on. Just very briefly, this is our overall vision. A little bit of Latin, mens sana in corpore sano, a healthy mind in a healthy body. And of course, we use Bloom's taxonomy here. We look at the mind, you know, what is called cognitive education. Not everybody likes that. But we also look at what we call affective education. Not effective with an E, but affective with an A. Because we also want to educate the heart. Some have called it soft skills, social-emotional skills. There's many words for it, but I think that we all know what we're talking about. And finally, of course, so-called psychomotor skills are also very important. Psychomotor skills are hand-eye coordination. It could be, for example, sports, etc. I want to say something about what for us in UNRWA is the essence of education. There's a very important distinction between a mathematics teacher and a mathematics researcher. For the mathematics researcher, what interests her at the end of the road, maybe she has to teach something, but she's interested in mathematics. For the mathematics teacher, this is different. The mathematics teacher is also interested in mathematics, but the most important for her are her students. How can she ensure that those mathematical concepts are understood by the students? And therefore, in UNRWA, we say the good teacher is the one that knows her students. Of course, she should also know about mathematics. This is also important. But first of all, she should know her students. And the interesting thing with that is that we plant a seed in a student, but we don't know what is going to happen to that seed. And I like that metaphor, and I think this is why you see that picture of that plant to the right, because as teachers, as educators, what we do is we create the conditions for that seed to grow. But of course, it is impossible for us to take the plant out of the seed. We cannot say the plant is in the seed, but it is in the seed in potency. And this is, of course, what we try to do. How do we know whether our students have learned? Well, we conduct periodic, what we call monitoring learning achievement studies, or MLAs. We've conducted it in 2009, 2013, 2016. Had one planned for 2020, but failed due to the pandemic. And we check students learning in grade 4 and grade 8 in mathematics and in Arabic. According to the 2016 data, and it's just to give you like a little bit of an idea, over half of students performed at achieved level in grades 4 and 8 in Arabic and grade 4 in mathematics. It's good. It is good if we compare it with the region, but let's be honest, it's not fantastic. We can do better. What we noticed, interestingly, is that there's particularly strong achievement in Syria and also quite strong achievement in Gaza. This was 2016. Of course, what things look like now, we're not entirely sure. We had a gender gap in favor of girls, but it narrowed since 2013. And you might be interested in knowing that both in Arabic and mathematics and both grades, that girls were therefore achieving better. This year, for the first time, we're not just going to look at what the learning levels are, but also under which circumstances it occurs. I'll not bore you too much with this, but I think some of you might find this interesting. So if you do, come to speak with me, please. Later, I'll be happy to tell you more about it. So that's what we want, right? We want to achieve quality education. I think you've got somewhat of an idea of what we mean with quality of education, but it's not easy. You know, we're facing issues. I think any issue you can think of, we faced it. Any issue that you cannot think of, we might have also faced it, or we're going to face it in the future. We're facing blockades in Gaza. We're facing restricted movement in the West Bank. We're facing poverty in Jordan. We're facing conflict in Syria. Over 10 years of conflict. We're facing a socio-economic crisis in Lebanon. We're facing financial crises as an agency. And now we've been facing the COVID-19 global pandemic. All of this on a shoestring. It's close to impossible, but our fantastic staff have done it. They've pulled through. And in addition to that, occasionally we face politically motivated attacks. And I used to think, you know, that problems are good. Because problems get us moving. Right? Problems push us out of our comfort zone and force us to do something different. But then I thought of these words of Freud, and I think they're very interesting. If suffering would truly impart lessons, the world would be populated by wise people, by sages. But we don't know that it is not the case. In fact, pain has nothing to teach to whom doesn't find the courage and the strength to listen to it. We as UNRWA can say, okay, we've got all of these problems, we give up. It's enough. You know, we cannot go on like this. But this is not us. And our answer to all of the issues that we're facing is educational innovation. We are determined not to be paralyzed by this adversity. And as I like to say, the pessimist always has an excuse. But we are optimists, and that means we've always got a plan. I'll tell you more. We've got several plans. We've got plans in education in emergencies. We've got plans in psychosocial support, plans in human rights education. But most of all, we've got a plan for ICT for education, technology. And in developing this strategy, we wanted to say this is not about the technology, this is about education. But what is education? And we thought, therefore, about three functions of education. Thought of a pyramid. We're in the Middle East. So we said, ultimately, education is about learning. So that is the top of our pyramid. But learning does not always occur by itself. It is supported by certain activities, most of all by teaching. So therefore, teaching is the second layer of the pyramid. But those teachers also need to be supported. They need training, they need ICTs, they want to have their salary, somebody needs to process the payroll, if we're lucky. So therefore, teaching is supported by management. This is what we call the 3 functions of education. How can we empower them with technology? Here we've been thinking about 4 strategic enablers. Number 1, if you talk about technology, some kind of device is needed. Without device, there is probably no technology. Smartphone, laptop, whatever. We also need connectivity. Second pillar or second enabler. We need to have some kind of resources, learning resources, platforms, these kind of things. And we want to have capacities. And then if we put these things together, so we thought about these 3 functions and we thought about those 4 enablers. We've got like a number, we've got a matrix, which we call our strategy matrix, got a number of intersections, and we formulated questions on each of those intersections. And if you've got answers to these questions, we have answers to how UNRWA deals with technology going forward. I don't want to bore you with this because I realize I'm running out of time. I just want very briefly to say that if we intersect devices with learning, one of the questions that we had is what devices for which learners? Our answer, laptops for the older children, tablets for the middle grades, and no devices for the youngest learners, because we've got some kind of evidence that giving technology too early might not be beneficial for their neurological development. Learning and capacities. Our answer is media and information literacy, concept developed by UNESCO. We've got 2 UNESCO staff members in the education program. One of them is myself, so we try to really strengthen that link. And then, for example, under capacities and teaching, we also want to use a UNESCO framework, which is the ICT Teacher Competency Framework. I'll, as I say, put the sock in it and give the floor to our student from Syria, who is the real star of this show. But I just want to summarize the situation to you, the things that I hope I've kind of gotten across. First of all, we as UNRWA have been mandated by the international community to provide quality education to Palestine refugee students. This is our task, and we will do it. In doing so, however, we're facing significant adversity. However, we've got several plans in place to overcome this, but we need your support. We need the support from the international community to be able to do this. Let us not let this ship sink. Too much is at stake, and we count on the international community to continue to support us. Now, in what comes, first, Lien will talk about her right to quality education. I'm going to pose her a specific question, and then over to Dana, who will speak with Dr. Iyad and with Reem. And I'm sorry, because I've been covering my honored colleague with my back, and I didn't mean to. I'm very sorry about that. But the question that I would like to ask Lien, and Lien is going to speak with us in Arabic. Lien is going to speak with us in Arabic, and you have got, of course, simultaneous translation available, to my understanding. Lien, if the world would invest in your quality of education, what could you do for the world? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. هلا هذا بصراحة سؤال عنده كتير أحلام بحب إنه يحققها، بس أنا كطالبة درست وتخرجت ودخلت لسوق العمل تغيرت نظرتي شوي حول النتائج اللي نحن نطمح لها للتعليم، ونحن بنطمح شو نحن بنستحقها، او انه نحن توفرت لنا الظروف المناسبه، الدعم النفسي الى اخره، الدعم المادي، الشغلات اللي نحن بنحتاجها لحتى نحقق احلامنا، هي انه يكون في ملتقى لجميع طلاب الأونروا اللاجئين من مختلف القطاعات. هذا المنصه او الملتقى انه نحن فينا نتشارك افكارنا، فينا افكارنا
could provide us with an opportunity to have all this realized in reality. There is no specific project that can save the whole world because the world is facing a lot of challenges, but we can discuss several topics from the real world, the current challenges that we are living, and we can have this opportunity to change the world. For example, for my passion, we can have a medical robot that could save a lot of people. This could gather several disciplines from the UNRWA. We have communication, information technology, mechatronics, electronics, even business, marketing, and design. We can all collectively work towards an idea that could help the world significantly, and this would pose a great opportunity for us to realize our dreams and turn them into reality. What's better than having your dreams realized even after you see these horrible atrocities? What's better than overcoming them, overcoming all these obstacles and realize our dreams and use them to help others and be part of the world's development and contribute to the world's good. We as students all have the right to have our voices heard and have the opportunity to contribute to the world's good. We have a lot of ideas, innovations, and creativity. We are the more difficult our situation, the more creative people become. We have a lot of innovative ideas, and every student has the right to have their ideas heard and to see their dreams being realized on a real world scale. We have a lot of creativity, we have passion, and we need the opportunity to contribute to build this world and build a brighter future for this world. Because as I said in the beginning, we have the energy and we use this energy to overcome huge obstacles, the wars we saw and the difficult challenges we saw. But it is very disappointing for such energy and passion to go to waste and not to have use it to create a better future for the world. Thank you.
It's just very inspiring, seriously. Thank you so much. And I would just like to second what Lena said. And if we all remember 5 years ago here in Dubai, the best teacher, the global actual best teacher award, which means the best teacher in the world, was from the UNRWA schools. So thank you so much, Lean, and thanks for coming all the way to join us. I will, just because of the time, I will now move to Dr. Iyad Zakut and hear from him more about the psychosocial support efforts that UNRWA is doing with their students, as we know, and as Lean said, and also, of course, as you mentioned, Moritz, they're facing lots of challenges. We can all imagine, you know, the children specifically in Syria and Gaza, what they have been through in the last few years. So how can you overcome this, Dr. Iyad, and what's your strategies when it comes to the mental health of your students?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to describe how our children in Gaza are surviving. Actually, as you mentioned, UNRWA is providing elementary education to more than 280,000 children in Gaza. And there is a strong relationship between mental health and education, or psychosocial support and education. Education is important for the well-being of children, and well-being or mental health is very important for education. Students or our children, when they are exposed to tragic and traumatic events, they lose a lot of their functionality. They start to experience a lot of post-traumatic reactions, and these reactions unfortunately interfere so much with their ability to attain academic skills, attend the schools. It affects their behavior, it affects their interaction with each other, it affects their emotions. And in the last escalation that we had in May 2021, I'm just giving this as an example, we have carried out a survey involving 12,000 students, more than 12,000 students from our grade 1 students, which almost 40% of the population in grade 1, and we discovered that 25% of these children, which means almost 8,000 children in grade 1 only, they require psychological intervention to be able to survive a routine and a daily life. The problem with exposure to traumatic events and to tragic events is not only children are suffering emotionally and psychologically. This, as I said, it interferes with their academic function, but it also interferes with their daily functions. We have two sorts of reactions that comes out when these children are exposed to traumatic reactions. Some of these reactions are internalized, so these children suffer silently, suffer from depression, suffer from anxiety reactions. But what is also sometimes happening is that they have some kind of externalization reactions, which is more behavioral reactions. These behavioral reactions, what we classify educationally as disruptive behaviors. These disruptive behaviors can be visible within the classroom. So it's not so the child sometimes who is suffering is not only affecting, not only affected himself, but even the teacher, the classroom, his peers, his classroom mates are also unable to attend the classroom. So it's very important that these children, and we give enough attention to this kind of reactions, and we really attain quality education without this interaction between mental health and psychosocial support from one side and education, our children will continue to suffer. And unfortunately, this is not only visible within the classroom. What also concerns us is these children, if they don't have a goal, if they don't have, a goal of getting educated, if they don't have an aspiration of becoming like our colleagues here who came from Syria and Lebanon and Gaza, and like myself, because I was an UNRWA student, if we don't give them this objective, this ambition, they will go, unfortunately, they will be harvested by other, by other parties, which we don't like them to be on that side. So it's important for their development, it's important for our society, it's important for all societies. The world can do a lot to Gaza, but Gaza can also do a lot to the world if we pay attention to education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. And I have another, actually, I would say, brief question for you. The 5 UNRWA students who joined us at Rewire, they have been able to network and to see students, also refugee students from other parts of the world. What do you think the impact of networking and talking with other students would have on them? Thank you.
Actually, it's very important. Our problem especially with Gaza and with Palestinian students generally, is that they are kind of isolated from the world. They don't know what exists beyond this aquarium. I compare it like an aquarium. So if a fish have always grown in an aquarium and you put it in the ocean, they will see the real world. They will see what opportunities and potential they have. It's also important for the world. I just describe you because we have done some sessions for children who survived the last escalation in May, and some of the homes, they were receiving warning by the army that they should evacuate their homes. So they should grasp the most important things before their home is demolished. And most of our students, they were grasping their school books before leaving. So it tells you how important this. So everybody was, scared about their safety, their precious things, collecting, most precious things. So our children, they were collecting their school books and putting them in their bags before their home get demolished. So this is something that we want also to convey to the world. How important it's, and we want our children to keep this ambition, and it's very important that other people see how this these children can survive, and how much education can be very important to create a hope and a future for this children.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Iyad. Thank you. I would like to, thank you. I would like to move to my last, but not least, of course, speaker, Reem. And Reem, as I mentioned, she's the head of TVET department at the UNRWA, and she's also in charge of youth and training. We heard from Dr. Iyad, Lean, and Morris about the kind of challenges that the agency is facing today. So, Reem, my question to you is, how can we provide solutions for these challenges, leveraging innovations and technology? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dana. Yes. Actually, I'll build on what the team has mentioned in terms of there are so many challenges that they are there, and also there is also a lot of potential that is existing in our Palestine refugees, and we have heard Lean and the energy that we are saying, her dreams, etc. So what we can do exactly in the TVET, and this is what we are aiming at. We know the kind of challenges that Palestine refugees are facing all over, and in order, it's very important for us to provide them with the tools that they can face whatever challenges they have, build their skills, build their resilience and all of that, so they can really enable them to face all of these challenges. For that, the TVET program, actually, it provides the TVET for 8,000 students across the 5 fields of UNRWA, across the 5 UNRWA fields. And there, we provide them with technical and vocational education to give them the skills, to give them the tools so they can build their competencies. And the UNRWA program, in fact, is very much recognized and renowned for its quality education and for its pioneering role in the development of curricula based on and adopting the curricula, the competency-based training. To that, we need to respond to the labor market needs so as we give them the tools in order for them to be competitive in the labor market and to enhance their employment. And this is something we are proud of about the employment rate of our Palestine refugees and our graduates, which reaches around 80%. It drops a little bit during the COVID, but as compared to the national and local level, and we know the drastic drop that happens in the employment rates, we were doing very great. It's only dropped around 75%, which we also consider it as an achievement despite all of that. We have so far graduated 120,000 students since the establishment of the TVET program. And this, when we are talking about a student who are graduating from the TVET program, we are talking about the livelihood and enhancing the livelihood of not only one student, we are talking about one family and even more. And we know we have many success stories across that is showing that one student who has been very successful and has opened their own business and actually employed so many graduates and so many Palestine refugees, which is also paying off. So this is why it's very important for us that we all the time, despite of everything, we invest in the TVET program and ensure that it remains very relevant to the labor market needs. And we have actually developed a curricula based on the competencies, a framework for that in order to be responsive to the labor market needs. We all the time, through our alliances and partnerships and our linkages with the labor market, so we ensure that we are aware what is happening, what are the things that are needed for the labor market, so we continue update our existing courses and also open new courses for the Palestine refugees and make them available, because this is very key for us. We have, for example, recently a new, in Gaza, how it is, we have very scarce resources in terms of electricity, cut off, issues related to that. In order to respond to these challenges, we have a panel, the solar system, and we have introduced a course that would build the skills of our students so they can work in this field and they can address and utilize the solar energy for the green economy and So this is one of the example. We also have other also examples, and of course, and all this is why we all the time continue to ensure that we continue relevant. During the COVID, this was a completely different story because it's, you cannot imagine. You know how challenging for everyone, even in those families who are all over the world, that you cannot, how we can find all of these, everything was shut down. And then we have to completely shift into remote learning. And this is what happened similar to all over the world. And for TVET, for the TVET students, this was also even more challenging because also we are not talking about only theoretical skills. We are also talking about practical skills. So as we shift, we have to move very quickly in this regard. So we have utilized the existing platforms to continue the online learning. We are also actually now in the process of developing an online platform that would be available to all of our students. We provide them, we have reallocated our resources, which are very limited, so they can also provide them with some tablets, some laptops, as we can manage to those the most vulnerable students so they can actually continue learning online. We have built the capacity of our teachers in terms of how they can adapt the existing curricula, which is basically designed for face-to-face instruction, to be shifted for remote learning. So this has been very key to us. We have done a lot of things, building the capacity of 500 instructors across the 5 fields of UNRWA operation, also during the pandemic, by using shifting and replanning, I would say. So we needed really to respond very quickly. We were planning as we implement and addressing all the challenges, providing them with psychosocial support, and also ensuring the health awareness and these kind of campaigns that we were running for all the students. So I think we have done great, and alhamdulillah, we have managed to graduate all of our students despite this pandemic, and we will continue, of course. A lot of work needs to continue, and now we are more prepared. I feel hopefully that we will not go into another shutdown, but we are more prepared now. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. We're all actually praying for, not to have another shutdown, hopefully not. But thank you so much. It's been really very inspiring to hear from you about your plans, especially when it comes to TVET and also the COVID response. I would like to ask if there's anyone on the floor who has a question for any of my speakers. Please, can I have a mic in the middle here?
So, hi. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you very much, Shukran.
Thank you.
For the very interesting panel. My question was actually for you, Reem. I'm working with an organization which is supporting Syrians, and we would really like to see kind of like a resolution to the conflict, but it's looking like it might be a protracted conflict, obviously, like the situation in Palestine and for Palestinians. So I guess my question is, one of the conversations I'm having a lot with donors is what's the point of funding education, especially higher education, without access to jobs? Because quite often Syrians are restricted from working in Jordan and Lebanon. That's obviously been the situation as well for a lot of Palestinians over the years. You've got incredible employment rates, so I just wonder if you've got any advice on, for other organizations in the room, maybe facing kind of like a similar situation on, firstly, how to help place people in jobs, and secondly, how to persuade donors that education is important even if a job isn't guaranteed at the end.
So if I understood your question correctly, you are asking about what we do at UNRWA in terms of advocating and outreaching to our students if they know the challenging situation, or also how we also work with the labor market.
Exactly, and I would like to add here also, I believe she meant that in case they know that they're banned from some jobs in some countries, what's the, how do you face that? So, I mean, and how do you reflect this on your programming in the TVET department? Thank you.
Yes. Actually, and thank you very much for your question. We have a placement and career guidance services that we provide to our students. This starts from at the very beginning when they are at schools. So we provide them with career guidance and this kind of awareness at 9th or 10th grade, so they are aware of what kind of, where they can go, how they can make an informed decision about their future career, what they would like really to study. We also, this was of course a bit challenging during the COVID, because we also hope that we also take them for example, like a tour, or so they are aware of our vocation training centers, and we also provide them about where they can go. Regarding the challenges, yes, definitely there are some restrictions for the Palestinian to work in specific HADA, and they are aware of that. And this is where we are finding kind of tweaking of what we of course do our best at higher level, where how we can mitigate these kind of challenges and address that by legal and things related to that. But for our students, we ensure that they are well informed from the very beginning. Also, when they are studying in our vocation training centers, we provide them with these employment skills, how they need to go into an interview, how they need to be prepared. These kind of life skills, we know it is really very key for anyone who's going to the labor market. So we try to equip them with the tools, and after they graduate, we also keep tracking on their employment rate to check, are they doing well? We have actually an indicator that we all the time, and the system where we capture all of this data. And we also continually, for example, we have conducted an employer perceptional survey to see the perceptions of our employers about how do they think about our students. So we continue to develop. So we do our best, because we know that there were some challenges. Hope
Thank
this
you.
addresses your question.
Thank you so much. Just another challenge that you're overcoming, and still providing quality education to Palestine refugees. I know that there's more questions, but unfortunately I won't be able to take them as we run out of time. However, I invite you all to have discussions with our colleagues at the UNRWA. They're here today and they're here also tomorrow. Please, feel free to have face-to-face and the students, of course, just face-to-face chat with them, each of them. And thank you so much for joining us today. We wish the best for our UNRWA colleagues, and it really was very inspiring to hear from you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.